the common misconception that neurodivergent employees are hired and then are given a lower workload to deal with. Do you think there's truth in that?
I think it's 100% misunderstanding. I think we tend to evaluate people on the expectations of how we work and think, oh, they must work the same way. And what I found very interesting, particularly working with the neurodivergent population, is that whether it's hyper-focused, that we know many autistic individuals, when they like something, they don't like it a little bit, they like it a lot. Their energy levels are so much higher. We also know from studies that have just come out recently that it is estimated that autistic individuals, when they are evaluating something, they take in 40% more information than the average person.
Wow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the India Autism Center podcast, your space for meaningful conversations about all things neurodiversity. I'm your host, Sakhi Singhi, and I'm so happy to have you here today to join in on this interesting topic about neurodiversity in the workplace. Today, joining us is someone who's been reshaping the way businesses see and harness the power of cognitive diversity. Hiren Shukla leads Ernst & Young's Neurodiverse Center of Excellence, and I'm so happy to have you here today, Hiren. And how are we doing? You said this was your first time in Calcutta, and how has that experience been?
It has been amazing. I've been traveling across India the last 2 weeks. The energy levels around neurodiversity is unlike anything I've seen before. And I wasn't quite sure, like when I came to Kolkata, how I would feel and what would happen. But visiting the Autism
Did it
Center,
surprise you?
it is not only surprised, it's blown me away.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so happy to hear that. Did you try the sweets yet?
No, that is on my list. Before I go to the airport, my wife has made me promise that I will bring sweets
We
back.
will arrange that for you. And before you get on that plane, I will promise you, you will get the sugar rush of your life. It's not, you need to try the sweets here.
Absolutely.
I say this to pretty much everyone who's new to Calcutta, and I say that when you're walking in Calcutta, you'll see a sweet shop, and then you'll see a medicine shop, and then you'll see a sweet shop, and you'll see a medicine shop.
So no coincidence that they're next to each other, huh?
No, it's for a reason.
Yes.
It's absolutely for a reason. So it's genuinely such an honor to have you here today. And like I said, you make me believe in the power of social media, because that LinkedIn message.
Yes.
First, when I got that message, I was like, this has to be a spam.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this has to be a spam. There is no way that EY found out about us. There is no way. And I remember I told Jess, and he was like, oh my God, someone messaged us, and is this real? I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's like, during your flight. And then when we actually had that call, and you were like, something's bringing me to Calcutta, I was like, oh my God, we need to have you here. We need to pick your brain on how you've created this, how you've created the Neurodiverse Center of Excellence in EY. And, we didn't even hear about neurodiversity for the last 10 years, and now we're hearing so much about it. So I want to now ask you, what exactly is neurodiversity, and how do you explain it to an employer?
So I think what is very fascinating is the concept of biodiversity and the ecosystems that we create that allow the world to thrive, the cognitive dimension and variations of how we all think, how we all learn, socialize, communicate. To me, neurodiversity represents that beautiful variation in each and every one of us. And so this is a bit of an invisible world that the more people learn and hear about this, I feel the more that they will get to understand themselves and others.
Right. Yeah. And when you say this to employers, what's kind of a follow-up question that you get?
The first question is, so why is this relevant? And why are we talking about this?
Yeah.
And, Zaki, we always follow this up with, one, workforces are under massive transformation right now. Age, gender, geopolitical forces, skills. And so optimizing the workforce is a critical component today. And we say two things. One is, employers, you already have neurodivergent individuals working for you, yet you have no idea.
Yeah.
Two, there is amazing talent that cannot get through your traditional processes. And that's not because they're less capable. That is because the processes have been designed by and for a certain group of people.
Mhm.
And so let's adapt and adjust this, because the skills, talent, and the power of thinking differently is what you can harness. This is what creates the initial intrigue to say, oh, okay, tell me more now, because now I'm interested as to why this is relevant to
For
me.
me, yeah. Which actually ties in to my next question, which is, um, you know, this entire conversation about neurodiversity in the workplace. You created the Center of Excellence, and you did this about a decade ago,
Yeah.
right? So, what was it a decade ago that inspired you to do this?
Yeah. I thank you for asking, because the why we do this, the genesis, is as important as to what we do, maybe even more so. Often autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, much of this has been framed in the world as a deficits-based disability. It's what people cannot do.
Yeah, yeah.
And what intrigued me 10 years ago was innovation comes from thinking differently. You have all of this invisible dimension of beautiful attributes. If you can harness that power, what kind of value would you create in the world? What kind of innovation would you drive in the world? And to be honest, I was excited on the opportunity,
Yeah.
but Saki, if I'm honest, I was also very disturbed. Why is it that people who are different are pushed to the fringe of society, pushed to the fringe of the workforce?
Hmm. Was there like like something you noticed specifically, like an instance that was like, okay, now something needs to be done about it, or was there like a personal instance that you're interested in sharing with us?
So it's funny, I didn't have any personal background or experience in this, but I will tell you, each and every one of us want to be included. We want to feel a part of something. And I think when you spend more than 50% of your hours at work, you want your work to matter.
Yeah.
And for me, the moment I heard about this and the possibility of using my voice, my position, my reach, maybe to make a difference for people who don't have a voice, who don't have a seat in the room, I think it gave me an opportunity to serve a purpose much greater than myself. And so that's the one part that brought me here. The other part was really this potential. What would happen if we included these people, people who are different? What would happen if they could be themselves and not have to mask and pretend? Isn't that a freedom and a luxury that each and every one of us want?
Yeah. I read somewhere that you shifted to the US at a very young age,
Yeah.
right? And did that transition and everything that comes with sort of being, let's say, trying to sort of fit into this new culture, into this new space, into a new into new space surrounding, into like new faces everywhere. Did that also sort of inspire you to create this?
Yeah. Seki, I probably didn't realize it at that time,
Yeah.
but I've always struggled to fit in. And it's strange when people hear this from me, because they say, oh, you seem to fit in fine everywhere.
Right.
But, we're all good at pretending, right, in certain cases. But as an Indian who was born in Africa,
Yeah.
who was fleeing and exiled to flee, and I was fleeing genocide, and we arrive in the US as refugees with the clothes on our back, nothing else. You don't speak the language, you don't know the culture. And then when I speak to other Indians, and I had no idea that my native language, Gujarati, was infused with African Swahili. So I would speak to others and I would think, oh, we're both Indians. But they would say, no, no,
There's so
you're
much
not
difference.
really an Indian because you have a different experience. And then on top of that, being in the US
Yeah.
and trying to fit in, I think struggling with that, what resonated with me was all of these invisible dimensions that each of us have. We are parents, we're carers, we're siblings, we could have different orientation. but no one can see this about us. And by the way, just because no one can see this doesn't mean we are less than.
Right. Yeah. There's so much intersectionality in, I guess,
Yeah.
everyone's lives. And that's the thing about disability. Like, it just doesn't come with, oh, that's all that we have to deal with. There's so many other intersections that
Right.
come in the way, which makes me think about the kind of misconceptions that come up with having a disability, because we sort of forget about, we completely forget about the other very many things
Right.
that are associated with it. Talking about misconceptions, there are several about disability in the workplace, like very many. And one such that I found was about the lower workload capacity. The common misconception that neurodivergent employees are hired and then are given a lower workload to deal with. Do you think there's truth in that? Do you think that this stems from a misunderstanding of their work style capabilities or their capabilities? Yeah.
I think it's 100% misunderstanding.
Okay.
I think we tend to evaluate people on the expectations of how we work and think, oh, they must work the same way. And what I found very interesting, particularly working with the neurodivergent population, is that whether it's hyper focus that we know many autistic individuals seem to have, when they like something, they don't like it a little bit, they like it a lot. And their energy levels are so much higher. We also know from studies that have just come out recently that it is estimated that autistic individuals, when they are evaluating something, they take in 40% more information than the average person.
Wow.
40 and we think about cognitive overload.
Yeah.
But in fact, imagine if we could all understand 40% more than we did
That's
today.
crazy.
It's massive, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, like, I think the misunderstanding is individuals expend energy at different places. You know, there's a saying, are you a morning person? Are you a night person?
Yeah.
But some people are very different in how they operate. And we have seen allowing those adaptations to let somebody work in the conditions that they
Want to work
work
in.
best,
Yeah.
they will produce outstanding product. They will be extremely productive. And we've had projects that frankly were supposed to go weeks and months that were completed in days.
Really.
And so we've seen this ourselves already.
Yeah.
So I think that that gave us data points
Yeah.
to prove back to ourselves and to our clients and others to say, when you adapt to how somebody works, you will actually get 1,000% more out of this. But it's we that have to adapt, not asking that other person to behave like everybody else.
What is it that's so difficult in having leaders adapt? Like, what do you think it is? Do you think it's like they need to unlearn somewhere? What is it? Like,
Yeah. I love this term use.
yeah.
What do we learn when we are going through school and as we're growing up? We learn how to act, how to behave, how to speak, how to make eye contact.
Yeah.
And so we converge in our thinking. I think what leaders need to do is unlearn some of these ways, because if we were able to adapt to different personalities and capabilities within our team, we would raise team performance. And so I think the unlearning around language, so I may be using language that is not inclusive, and I may be doing this unconsciously. I don't realize I'm doing this. I may be having a set of behaviors, like expecting people to look me in the eye, or if I want
Yeah.
to speak to somebody, I just go to their office and speak to them. They may not be as comfortable doing that. So leaders need to adapt to their team member styles. And I think that when they do, this becomes a little bit uncomfortable for leaders,
Yeah.
which is part of the challenge there.
Yeah. Do you? I'm guessing the leaders must be having this issue that leading can't be so individualized based on the person. How do you how do you convince them otherwise? Because if I am a leader and I'm used to sort of just walking in and telling someone about the project, and I do that with 8 out of 8 people, but I'm not supposed to do it with the other 3. I mean, how is that sort of fair and justified?
It's interesting, Zaki, that much of the perception has been, well, why should I make a change for that one person?
Yeah.
Because everybody else doesn't need it. So we've seen some key examples, okay? So for one, we say, hey, you know what neurodivergent employees usually appreciate is that when you send out an invitation for a meeting, please put a description there.
What this meeting is
Yes,
about.
and please explain what your expectations are so that the person can be prepared and you're not creating anxiety.
Yeah.
So when we set this out, it was no surprise that everybody else on the team said,
Mm.
oh, I would like that too,
Yeah.
because I go to meetings and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I'm not even prepared.
Yeah.
And so we're finding that what is actually necessary for some is actually beneficial for all. And so what we're almost breaking that perception is you're not making a change for one person, you're actually increasing the innovation and inclusion capacity for everybody by doing these things.
That's so amazing, actually. I remember we had this one person in the team who was neurodivergent, and she once said, "Hey, can we not have so many meetings and have people just write on email about what exactly is needed? Because I don't have to show up." Because we had this rule once to like turn on the camera
Mm,
just to make sure that everyone, the person was in control of seeing everyone's faces, so hence everyone's focusing. But I just thought that was really funny, that something that can be valued
yeah,
to maybe a few folks can actually turn out to be valuable for a lot of other people, because we started doing that. Things that did not require a meeting,
yeah.
we would just send an email, and you don't need that meeting then.
And you drive efficiency. And it's interesting, Zaki, is that what we loved about launching our neurodiverse centers of excellence at EY was we began to create this beautiful transparency and honesty in our organization, right? When you think something, you feel something, you need something, you say it.
Yeah.
And when you do this in a safe environment, what we found was we're increasing the speed and the velocity of how our team moves. We are not dragging ourselves down. Everybody benefits from this,
Make it
but it
work.
takes somebody to raise their hand and to say this. And most neurotypicals will pretend and not say these things. They'll just go along with it. But yet inside, each of us are feeling, oh, I wish I had less meetings. I wish the meeting came with a description so I know what I need to do.
Yeah, that definitely helps a lot of
Yeah.
people. I also have another question. So we spoke about misconceptions. There's also one that calls all neurodivergent people superhumans, and they're somehow very powerful and would be able to give you a lot of output. What do you think about that?
I think it is, I think it's a terrible amount of pressure and it's a unfair amount of expectation when you put on somebody, I'm expecting you to deliver so much greater than what is generally expected. And Saki, this brings to me what my friend Dr. Nancy Doyle in the UK helped me understand as the spiky profile. The spiky profile effectively says neurodivergent individuals can excel in certain parts, but
Yeah.
they may really struggle in other parts. And that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
How can you excel in generative AI and creating those models, and yet, other kinds of what we call more simple tasks you struggle in? I think that the superpower perspective is unfair to do because each of us have certain capabilities and we lack others. And I think that treating each other in the same level of expectations of anybody else, I think that takes away the pressure of being labeled as I need to perform at a much higher level.
Yeah. There's also this thing about, I just generally want to know what your thoughts are
Mm,
about the terminology. high functioning
Ah,
and low functioning. These are these labels, and what do you think about it? I have people use it
yeah,
on the daily because it just explains things better.
yeah,
But I think you put it so well, right? Like everyone has different
yeah,
needs. But if you can elaborate a little
yeah,
more on that.
absolutely. So to date, between the 1,200 or so individuals EY has hired in our 25 centers of excellence in 15 countries, and probably the over 4,000 that we have helped hire with our largest clients in the world, what has been proven to us without a shadow of doubt is that individuals have all different kinds of needs.
Yeah.
And the moment I put them on a very simplistic spectrum,
Yeah.
high functioning or low functioning, I'm actually discounting
Uh-huh.
not only their ability, but I'm discounting the contribution we can make together.
Yeah.
So I think what we have now flipped over to is, hey, let's understand what each person needs. Whether I'm a mother of three or I'm a person who takes care of my elderly parents or I'm a neurodivergent individual, it doesn't matter. We all have different needs. And the goal is to find out, okay, what do you need? And I think the high functioning, low functioning labels really need to be discarded.
Yeah, that's great, Hiren. Thank you so much. Well, talking about needs makes me move to the next question, which is about accommodation needs and the idea that accommodations are expensive, they're disruptive, they're not needed, again, too individualized. Um, what do you think about accommodations and the constant complaints that employers and maybe HR folks have about this?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. I think one, the dimension of disabilities has all been lumped together.
Right.
Whether it's a person with locomotive challenges, and I'm in a wheelchair, or I have sensory disabilities, or anything else,
Hmm.
I think the fear of accommodations has been blown out of proportion. And I'll give you a very couple of quick examples.
I love that you say fear
We've,
of accommodation.
it is,
Because that's actually
yes,
it's a fear, yeah.
it is. And, when we think about what types of things people need, we've done everything from we'll give you a headset, but instead of a regular headset, it's a noise canceling headset.
Hmm.
This costs $20 more. Okay? So there's no cost. Other things were somebody has high sensitivity because they're sitting next to a window and they can see all the traffic up there. The accommodation, it's like it was moving their seat away from the window. This cost us zero, okay, to do. But the only way we were able to understand this is because the person felt safe to tell us these things. So we worked through challenges together when one of our team members, um, we found him doing push-ups in the main conference room, okay?
Yeah.
And we said, okay, are you okay? Why are you doing push-ups?
Yeah.
And he explained that if I don't expend my energy every 45 minutes, I can't concentrate anymore. So I need to do something to expend my energy. So you know what the accommodation was? We were on the 7th floor. We said, what if you just went in the staircase and you went up and down?
Yeah.
Would that work? He said, yes. He said, but if I'm in a meeting, can I still do this? We said, as long as you come back from the meeting. But these are accommodations that sound so silly.
Right.
They cost us nothing
Nothing.
to do. But it all took cooperation and safety. And I think that's where this whole accommodations fear has literally been blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this I was reading somewhere about how accommodations are making everyone cry baby. But I mean you put it just so well. There's just a fear that you think everything could go wrong if I give an accommodation to one person and not the other.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Hiren, you've worked tirelessly to reshape hiring practices.
Mm.
And what suggestion do you have to make hiring practices more inclusive
Yeah.
and specifically to the Indian subcontinent? Like,
Yeah.
what are the hiring practices that you could suggest to employers that would be
Sure.
more neuro inclusive?
One I will start with is the type of qualifications that we're looking for in job postings. We are looking for Superman, Superwoman, Superperson. This person doesn't actually exist anywhere in the world, okay?
Yeah.
So one, we need to be more realistic,
Okay.
okay? Uh, Two, we need to be careful of the language that we use in job descriptions. We find that neurodivergent individuals, particularly, if they do not meet 10 out of 10 of these qualifications, they will not even apply for the job. So they are self-selecting themselves out. So that company is missing out on amazing talent. But the last and important change that I would suggest, and we've made this ourselves and we've worked with massive organizations and our own clients, is instead of sitting across a desk and asking and answering random questions, and it's like you or I, maybe actually one of us may be very good at answering the question. I may be very good at pretending that I know how to do the work.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I actually know how to do the work. But when we pivot from that behavioral based process to a performance-based observation. I mean, when we simulate the work environment,
Okay.
the lighting, the texture, the chairs, the sounds that are happening, and the technical work we're doing, the communication we need to have, when we simulate all of this, which is actually what we do at EY in our centers of excellence, we find that we are actually getting candidates who are really good fit for that actual role itself. So we are no longer asking random questions
Yeah.
and expecting them to respond to it. We're actually giving them a chance over 3 to 4 days to say, how does this environment work for you?
Yeah.
What supports do you need? And by the way, can you actually do the job or
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. That's that's really that's really new. It's taken me a while to think about that. You said something about language there.
Mm,
Um, a lot of corporates don't really know how to use a neuroaffirmative language.
yeah.
What is the feedback that you can give them? Like any resources that maybe your centers of excellence can help out with, or anything somewhere that you suggest they can follow or reach out, like maybe
Yeah.
India Autism.
Well, but I first of all, I do think, it's amazing. There's organizations like yours.
Yeah.
There is our friends at Made by Dyslexia or the ADHD Foundation or the Autism Society. They put out so much information that literally all I need is to Google, Bing these things, and I will find a whole
Every
plethora of info. And again, no one's charging you for this. You can
that.
you can get all these things for free.
Yeah.
But I think, when we think about what's happening in India, and I think about the amazing resources that you all keep to curate and push out at the India Autism Center. I've been spending time with our friends at Ashoka University and Ishanya India Foundation and Vishesh and a number of others. And,
Lovely
and
organization.
they're amazing.
Yeah.
And they have a tremendous amount of online, it's already there.
Yeah.
So I think accessing those and working with organizations like yours is a very easy, simple, and quick win for
So
companies.
if organizations are not exactly doing it, it's not because they don't really know, it's because they're choosing to be ignorant about it.
I I think that they don't understand, the scale of what
Mhm.
we're talking about. You know that, people will look at the autism, population and say, "Oh, that's just 1% of the population." But in fact, when you look at neurodivergence as a whole, you're now talking 15 to 20% of the population. All of a sudden, the relevance gets much bigger.
Right.
I think the other part is there's still a lot of misconceptions. There's lots of misunderstanding and lack of knowledge. And I think this is where this podcast, organizations like yours, and what we do, I think our voices begin to open up minds. A friend of mine says something. He says, it's not necessarily unconscious bias, it's like uneducated bias. I don't know what I don't know
Yeah.
until someone tells me this. So I think that's where triggering and reaching employers so that they understand the opportunity and what they may inadvertently be doing that is closing the doors, but could bring amazing talent to their
I
organization.
love that, Hiren. I really, really think that I really hope employers are watching this.
Yeah.
And if you are watching this podcast, please take the time to like and subscribe and comment below, because it really helps us build awareness, and specifically about neurodiversity in the workplace. That is so, so important. Do you have, for a closing question, have there been individuals with autism in your workplace where they're thriving in the workplace right now and they had a hard time adjusting? Can you take us through that?
Oh my goodness. We have over 1,000 stories. And the reason I say this, and I specifically use that number, this is not an experiment anymore. We are not even hypothesizing this works. We have individuals, Saki, who are driving Ubers, delivering pizzas, working as cleaners,
Amazing.
and yet they were working in airports, helping to collect luggage of individuals who are literally the most amazing, loyal, hardworking,
Mm-hmm.
agile performers that we have. We've achieved 93% retention
Oh my God.
and career progression. Individuals are now at manager level
Wow.
who started entry. So it has completely broken the mold of what people thought before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the portfolio of all of these 1,000 use cases, we actually document them. And it's not using the name of Hiren or Sakir. We actually just say, look at what happens in your business, in your processes, when you open up the channels of neuro inclusion. Because neurodiversity is saying, oh, autistic individuals or dyslexic or ADHD, but neuro inclusion, I think, is for everybody. And I think this is where we are happy to share all of these success stories. This is not a competitive angle. This is a collaborative angle, and hence why I'm so happy to be here on the.
So all of this literature
Yeah.
is publicly available.
Some of it is publicly available on ey.com.
Yeah.
Others, those that are watching today, feel free to send me a LinkedIn notice. We're happy to set up time with you and to share this type of information.
Yeah.
We often do it according to industry and sector and geography. And you know what we want to reach? We want to reach decision makers, people who may be skeptical, who may not understand, but they need talent, they need innovation. And I think that's the opportunity, combined with the fact they already have neurodivergent employees working for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're already there,
Yeah.
right?
You're already there. Might as well do better to accommodate
Yeah.
them. That completely makes sense. What I'll do is I'm going to put the links of
Okay.
most of the studies also
Sure.
in the description. And we'll also add the link to your LinkedIn in the description, so
Perfect.
that folks, if you think that you need some help navigating this territory, please do reach out to EY's Neurodiverse Center of Excellence and to Hiren, and we hope something will come out of it. And on that note, Hiren, thank you so much for being on the show again. I really am so happy that you're here in Calcutta, and I hope that there are folks that take back something from this podcast. And if you have any closing thoughts, Hiren.
Other than we now know from studies that came out late last year, 53% of the Generation Z population, the Gen Z population, 53% of this population identify as being neurodivergent, either from a direct diagnosis or from a self-diagnosis. This is telling us that the future is neurodiverse.
Right.
If we don't learn about this now, we will be completely unprepared. I encourage everybody, if today's podcast has struck any nerve of curiosity, please reach out to the India Autism, please reach out to EY, please reach out to, and Google anything
Mm-hmm.
or Bing it, because you will learn so much.
Yeah.
And I think you will help make
Yeah.
a better place for all
Yeah.
of us.
Hiren, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, and thank you so much for your valuable insights, and thank you for taking the time to speak to India Autism Center. Thank you all for tuning in, and if you have any questions, any comments, please leave them below, and I hope you'll be watching after this video something that pops up on your screen. Thank you.